2023, suicide was the 11th leading cause of death in the United States, claiming around 49,000 lives. In the same year, the national suicide death rate was 14.1 per 100,000. And according to the World Health Organization, more than 720,000 people die by suicide globally every year. Experts from the American Association of Suicidology recognize that suicide is often rooted in a broad net of interconnected factors, including social, physical, circumstantial, psychological, economic, and cultural issues. Clearly, the causes of suicide are very complex and cannot be narrowed down to one singular issue to be addressed. And stigma around suicide simply adds fuel to that fire. So many of us, most likely all of us, have been impacted by suicide in one way or another. And I'm sure we've all asked ourselves, what can we do? Well, leading suicide prevention research from the CDC suggests that the key to reducing suicides is to reduce risk and increase resilience. But we cannot begin if we cannot even talk about the topic, which then leaves us asking, how? How can we find ways to talk about suicide that invites people into the conversation? How can we find ways to talk about suicide that destigmatizes people's very real experiences and gets them connected to help? Enter the play, Every Brilliant Thing. Described as a warm and funny play, Every Brilliant Thing uses elements of theater and improv to talk about suicide and depression. Now I know what you're thinking. Did she just describe a play about suicide as warm and funny? Well, according to The Guardian UK, Every Brilliant Thing is a heart-wrenching, hilarious play. One of the funniest plays you'll ever see about depression, and possibly one of the funniest plays you'll ever see, full stop. Have I piqued your interest? Every Brilliant Thing is a one-person play that tells the story of a young child's response to their mother's suicide attempt. Their idea? Make a list. A list of everything brilliant about the world, everything worth living for to share with her. And throughout the play, you watch both the child and the list grow, all while having a front row seat to how this character grapples with their mother's suicide attempts and their own personal struggles with depression as they grow into adulthood. I saw Every Brilliant Thing for the first time in 2019, and it changed my life. Because of it, I started my own list of brilliant things, and I even got my mom to drive 3 hours just to see it. I'm confident I found my passion for suicide prevention because of it too. Then, 6 years later, I had the chance to perform the piece myself as an actor. To be on the other side of an experience that meant so much to me was truly brilliant. To be the one on stage, seeing and feeling how this show can impact people was an experience I will never forget. Now, the best part about doing Every Brilliant Thing is that you, the audience, are invited to play a part too. That's right, Every Brilliant Thing is interactive, and that's by design. Playwright Duncan McMillan said in an interview, "We wanted it to be a conversation with the lights on. Everyone could see each other, everyone could hear each other, everyone could laugh and cry together." It had to be funny, and it also needed to be open and generous and inclusive of an audience. And it's that inclusivity that makes this play what it is. Audience members play different characters from the child's life, like their dad, their partner, Sam, and even a beloved school counselor, Mrs. Patterson, and her sock dog. And from the very beginning to the very end of the play, audience members shout out brilliant things from the list when prompted. It's beautiful, and it's fun. It doesn't shy away from what's hard or what might be uncomfortable. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. But first, I'm going to ask for more participation from you, but just the silent, self-reflective kind. I want to ask you, how did you feel when I first mentioned the word suicide? And you can be honest. Maybe you felt discomfort, fear, anger, grief. If you did, that's okay. Those are all very normal responses, likely stemming from our own personal experiences with suicide or from the stigma surrounding it. And with the debunked but still very common myth going around that talking about suicide puts the idea in people's heads, it's no wonder that fear is our first response when we hear the word suicide. It's human. But now I want to ask you this. How did you feel after our very brief performance of Every Brilliant Thing? I know I saw some smiles, heard some laughter. Perhaps we all felt a taste of connection, of hope, of curiosity. If you did, you're not alone, and that's just the beginning. In 2019, the Utah Shakespeare Festival brought Every Brilliant Thing to their audiences, who called it a moving tribute to resilience and hope, and expressed that the play taught them new ways to have conversations about depression and suicide. And after every performance, patrons were invited to write down their brilliant things and add them to a wall exhibit titled "My Brilliant Thing Is." Hundreds of multicolored sticky notes filled with brilliant things covered the wall. And here are some examples. Listening to an emotional song and feeling an unexpected sense of hope. Feeling the light in a person's soul. Listening to the opening Star Wars theme play at full volume. And that stupid grin you get on your face when you experience true, overflowing joy. It was hard to ignore the impact this show was having. To further that impact, a tour of Every Brilliant Thing was proposed by the Utah Shakespeare Festival and funded by the Utah State Legislature, moving through the state, visiting high schools with the goal of creating an active dialogue with students about suicide and depression. Starting in October of 2019 and continuing in 2023 and 2024, Every Brilliant Thing was performed 220 times for 53,864 audience members. These performances included talkbacks, partnerships with local mental health resources, referrals to school counselors, theater workshops, and thousands of brilliant things. 38,839 to be exact. Teachers reported an increase in students' awareness of mental health resources and willingness to talk about every brilliant thing, or mental health resources, or willingness to talk about mental health after watching Every Brilliant Thing. One teacher said, "I think students gained a better sense of talking about a difficult subject." Several students said it was one of the best things they'd ever participated in. One actor from the tour team relayed this experience. Our performance was particularly poignant this morning. One of their students died by suicide just weeks ago. We worked with the school to ensure the students were taken care of throughout and after. We were part of their Hope Week. Highlights from the talkback included, "Thank you for allowing me the chance to cry." And "I enjoyed the support group section, realizing how important it is that we come together and talk about things." And finally, from a student, "I've never seen anything like this before. I've welled up a lot of emotion in me and I can't believe it. Thank you for being bold enough and strong enough to do this for us. I really got the message. By the end, I really understood. So thank you." It takes courage and curiosity to find a new approach to things, especially things like suicide prevention. Every Brilliant Thing talks openly about mental health, about depression, and about suicide, and yet people leave theaters feeling optimism, connection, and hope. No matter what side of the stage we're on, Every Brilliant Thing asks us to adopt curiosity as we confront the realities of suicide and depression, understanding that someone in the audience, someone we know, has likely experienced this very story for themselves. Perhaps we have. Talking about suicide isn't always easy, and it requires a level of sensitivity, vulnerability, and courage. But the research shows that talking about suicide reduces stigma and allows people to get the help that they need. Like the National Alliance on Mental Illness has said, we all need to talk more about suicide. And Every Brilliant Thing helps get the conversation started. I opened my talk highlighting statistics about suicide. More than 720,000 people die by suicide globally every year, and the national suicide death rate is 14.1 per 100,000. Now, because I was curious, I factored that rate into the number of people who saw Every Brilliant Thing on tour. Statistically speaking, that would be about 8 per the 53,864. Now, the questions I'm about to pose don't have concrete answers, but they're ones I want to invite us to think about anyway. How could the lives of 8 people change if they realize that they're not alone? If they realize that they're not weird? That things get better? How could the lives of 8 people change if conversation around suicide were normalized and they were able to get the help that they need? After my own performances of Every Brilliant Thing, I addressed the audience no longer as a character, but as myself. And I asked them to share their brilliant things with me and with each other. Almost every hand popped into the air as people shared brilliant things, from the more lighthearted, like that first scoop into a new jar of peanut butter, or having just enough hangers when putting away your laundry, to the more meaningful, like getting accepted into grad school, or hearing my baby laugh. It was my favorite part about doing the show. And now I want to ask the same of you. Out in the hallway, we've created our own wall exhibit for you to help us fill. At the conclusion of this evening, I invite you to write down your brilliant things and share them with us and with each other. Though it is my sincerest hope that Every Brilliant Thing continues to be part of suicide prevention efforts worldwide, and that each of you see a full performance at your next opportunity, the hope that inspired my talk tonight was this: that each of us do what Every Brilliant Thing invites us to do whenever we can. Choose curiosity and start the conversation. Because while sharing a list of brilliant things might not have the evidence-based research proving it can prevent suicide, talking about it, having real, meaningful discussions about suicide does. Thank you.